I'm Chris Avina. I'm here with Tod Smith from Grizzly Stik, and they really have a revolutionary product that should really change the archery industry. Todd, thanks for taking the time to speak to me.
Sure, you bet.
Can you tell me a little bit about these arrows and the broadheads?
Right,
A little
well,
bit of how'd you develop it, and what's the theory behind it?
sure. Well, our tagline is setting you up for success. So who hasn't lost a deer, an elk, or some animal to a bone hit, a shoulder blade hit? You want to figure out, how can I get better penetration? How can I be more lethal on my game? So years ago, Dr. Ed Ashby identified two thresholds. The first one is a total mass weight of 650 grains. It sounds incredibly heavy to most guys, but it's only 200 grains heavy. And what we found is at 35 yards out of a 70-pound bow, point of impact's only about 4 inches lower. And when you can now bust through a shoulder blade on an elk, when you can shoot an elk frontal to rear, when you can have confidence that your gear's never going to let you down, that's what it takes. 650 grains with at least a 20% FOC.
So these are designed to break through the rib cage and give you the maximum power. And
Yes,
force.
the arrow is extremely efficient. It's a tapered design, so it recovers from archer's paradox immediately, and it also eliminates what we call impact paradox. Impact paradox is when an arrow is hitting an animal, a parallel arrow will generally flex side to side from the center, and it impedes penetration. These are very stiff up front, and so when the arrow impacts, it's stiff and it's driving straight through, so we get a hole on the opposite side almost every time.
Okay.
The bone breaking part of it is this single bevel. It's beveled on one side, it's flat on the other side. They're opposing each other, so as they go through any medium, air, flesh, or bone, they have to rotate, they have to spin. There's more pressure on those bevels than there are on the flats. Just like a wood chisel, if you pound a wood chisel in, it digs in. It's just physics, it's just the laws of nature. So I'm going to show you a bone. This is literally what you can do with a big bone. This bone was shot, I think the bow was only like in the 50s in weight. So as the arrow's coming through, it strikes the bone pushes violently against those bevels, it forces a dramatic rotation, which actually splits the bone and allows the arrow to continue through.
Okay. Now, your design basically goes against what mainstream media is teaching the archer today.
It does. And that's why our battle is so tremendous. And that's why we actually go to the individual bow hunter, to the bow hunter, to the bow hunter, because we know the pain of failure. That's why, we say setting you up for success. If you want to put all the odds in your favor, you set yourself up with an arrow and a broadhead that works even when things go wrong. You're not trying to hit bone, but it happens. And think about this too. On smaller animals, there's no angle that you can't shoot. You can get through bones and get to the goodies any angle. And on larger animals, so many times a guy is aiming a little bit back of that shoulder because just in case they hit it, and then they end up in the liver, they end up gut shooting their animal. Now you can line up exactly on that crease, and if you accidentally hit the bone, you still get through and you still get your animal.
Now, I think this is extremely effective if you're planning on hunting dangerous game with a bow. A bear, polar bear, an elephant, a Cape buffalo. Instead of, like, what I have done is taken the advice of the manufacturer, and they say, this arrow and this broadhead should work fantastic. When in reality, I might be putting my life at risk
Right,
with the product that is not
right,
proper for that hunt.
right. People who normally find us, they find us online because they've had a bad experience, even on whitetails. A lot of guys have lost whitetails to a shoulder blade hit, and so and mostly it's elk. And so they're looking arrows for better penetration, broadheads for better penetration, and they end up finding the Ashby studies. The Ashby studies were all based on thousands of shot on animals, not on ballistic gel, not on plywood, not on steel drums, on animals. So it makes it undeniably true.
So as we discussed earlier, the kinetic energy and the speed of the arrow is very different from what you're doing.
Yeah, it's very deceiving. Kinetic energy has no direction. It's not really the measurement to use. Momentum is a lot better measurement to use. Momentum has a direction, and in layman's terms, it means how hard is it to stop this projectile once it's in motion.
So with the, as we discussed, a 40-pound bow, with this type of setup, you could get the same penetration as a 70-pound bow.
With the right arrow, with the amount of weight and the FOC, absolutely, you can.
Awesome. So where were we able to find you?
Well, online, we're grizzlystik.com. We're Grizzly Stik, grizzlystik.com.
Okay. Thanks for taking the time to speak to us.
You bet. Thank you.
You got a fantastic product, and I look forward to trying it.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Right.